Friends and fellow watchers of Illusion, welcome to another Delboy retrospective film and unboxing. And this one was quite an easy one to choose this time. I've been talking to some of my online friends, and we talk on many subjects in regards to cinema. And one of the subjects that's come up quite recently that has me pondering is what's happened to film comedy. Film comedy is something that's been around for me since the very start. And yet, when I look at the last 10, 15 years, I find it difficult to name some really, really good comedies. Definitely harder in the last 5 years and definitely on the decline. And there must be, therefore, possibly topics going on that talk about why they're on such a decline. Maybe it's the environment we live in now, with problems that we might offend somebody with something that we say or do or talk about. So my brain likes to go back to around about the 80s when I think about comedies. So many films in the 80s. I was watching horror, science fiction, drama, thriller, but one of the big genres would be comedy. And there were so many that you could choose from. Ghostbusters, 16 Candles, Uncle Buck, Weird Science, Planes, Trains and Automobiles. And when I think about comedy, certain ones come up in that period, and I think it starts off with that very decade with the film Airplane. So when I was thinking about one that I could discuss, one that came to mind was this particular title. Just show it there to the camera, and that is The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad, which came out on 4K late last year and celebrated its 35th anniversary. There's the back of it. Now, Naked Gun crops up in a number of polls. I believe it was Channel 4 that did a poll of comedies, and it came 14th out of 100. And Empire magazine did their own poll of 50, and I think it even got higher. It was like fourth. And sometimes you have to think, well, is it the type of comedy that makes people think of this particular film? And I think it's actually more to do with the fact that it doesn't try or push too hard. In fact, it doesn't even try to be a comedy. It's actually played very, very straight. All the characters in it are bumbling around, but they play it deadpan, which makes the plot of the film, for what there is, which there is not a lot, move along quite nicely. But it's also one of those films that you have to seriously watch what's going on in the background, as well as what you're watching with the main characters, because you'll miss no end of sight gags. And that's because this film is slapstick, satire, spoof, a number of different types of comedy bits all entwined to make this film. And it's below 90 minutes. So it's one that you could just put in and endlessly just get great enjoyment of. In fact, you could turn it on in the middle of the film and the gags would just work for you. You wouldn't need to know what you saw before or what's going to come at the end for you to understand the gags that are going on. So there's a number of reasons why, for me, this is just a joy to watch. And I really seriously love coming back to this film. And that's why there isn't really too much for me to talk about when it comes to plot. There is very, very little plot in this. In fact, it starts off totally disjointed from the whole plot, where our hero, Frank Drebin, who basically is supposed to be a grizzled chin cop, hard hitting, is actually on vacation, and he disrupts a conference of America's greatest enemies. And we are talking enemies of the time. I mean, we've got Idi Amin, Gaddafi, I don't know, Castro, I think, was there. Gorbachev was there. And they're looking at having a meeting to concoct a terrorist plan. And Frank Drebin interrupts this conference. A fight breaks out, and he basically just takes them all on. And it's just sight gag after sight gag. He gets the better of them and then exits through a window, for which you hear him sort of like fall out of, sort of like screaming, and then roll credits. And that's the introduction of the film, for which you then get a really, really nice piece of music. And the music was done by somebody called Ira Newborn. Now, Ira Newborn is somebody that has actually done quite a number of what I consider to be good albums, but he is not considered to be like the greatest in anything. He's just a well-sessioned composer. And if you look at his history, I don't think he's actually done any music since 1998, and yet he's considered still present as a composer, and he is not dead. So basically, if you wanted to get a collection of Ira Newborn albums for film scores, very, very easy to do so. I don't think either there are any that are out of print either. I think they're quite easy to get hold of. And it wouldn't be something that you'd be looking for either in regards to expanded scores. In fact, I remember when I was looking for an album, The Naked Gun, it took a while for me to actually get it. It really was a main theme for a long time on a compilation, and really didn't have an album for it. It did come out, but it was quite short supply. Now it's quite easy to get hold of. So then anyway, the plot continues, where we're looking at a number of our other characters. There seems to be some heroin operation going on, and that's disrupted. But the police officer that was actually on that case, Nordberg, played by O.J. Simpson, nearly gets killed. And that's when our hero is introduced, and he's brought into a case. But he's given the job of looking after Queen Elizabeth, who's visiting the country and is going to be sort of like chaperoning her. And yet these two things, the heroin plot and the looking after of the Queen, are all intertwined by one big operation that's going on. And it's headed by Ricardo Montalban, who basically is superbly played here. I mean, he has a presence, and I believe he got the role because the director David Zucker loved his portrayal of Khan in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and basically the plot just goes on and on and on with how they were going to kill Queen Elizabeth. It's all done by mind hypnosis, and we follow the plot of Drebin solving this crime. And like I say, there are many types of parody films out there. There are many scenes as well that are just so funny. I could mention so many, but just to give you an inkling of a parody in this film, there is a scene where Drebin is told that he's just been told that he's on the case now of looking after Queen Elizabeth II, and the actual chief of police says, we don't want any more bad things happening like what happened last year down south. And he looks puzzled by that. And she goes, "You know the one." And he goes, "You do not go around killing people in parks." And he said to him, he says back to her, "Look, when I see somebody going along in a park with a knife attacking 20 people, then it's my policy to shoot them." And she turns around and goes, "It was an actual play in the park. It was a Shakespearean play." And that's the sort of like sight gags that you get. And that's a parody of an exact scene that happened in Dirty Harry. So, there are Easter eggs all the way through this film. So I really do recommend that you go and see this film. You'll have a blast. I think we'll do an unboxing now. So I've got my copy here, and I've got my knife to actually open it with. So I'm taking off all of the cellophane. And this is something that I recommend that you do actually, in regards to steelbooks at least. The cellophane is plastic and it degrades. Over years, it will react with the air. It can lift the paint off of steelbooks. So basically, if you ever see your cellophane starting to ripple, now's the time possibly to take it off. So this comes with a J card, which I'm just going to try to pull off now without causing any damage. So you can see here. And I'm just pulling it off now. And we'll get to the full steelbook. So there we go. With the J card off, it now looks lovely with its blues and reds. There is some indentation of bullet holes. They are actually dents in the metal. If you look on the back, there's just some items on there at the back. I'll just try and put it forward so you can see. Those are sort of like some of the funny things. There's a fish there. That's a very funny scene in the film. There's some bottles there of ketchup condiments. That's funny as well. That's a musical segment from the film. Don't be put off by that. It's actually a very funny scene. So we open it up and you get a 4K and a Blu-ray in here. So just take those discs out for a moment. Hopefully the Blu-ray won't be the tricky one. No, that's come out quite okay. And inside you've got the familiar plastic insert with a singular scene from the film. And you can see there Drebin trying to do some cover to Queen Elizabeth II there. The Blu-ray disc is on a blue disc. Funny that. And the 4K is on a black disc. No pictures on these. I think actually that works quite well. No leaflet or anything. Just very, very simple packaging. But it basically looks lovely on your shelf. Now, what I generally do with a steelbook is I use a protective coating. These are much better than using the shrink wrap. These are coated quite well. They don't degrade or react with the air as much as something that cellophane type plastic will do. And so, like I say, I would recommend that anybody that gets steel books is that you buy some of these covers. They're quite easy to manipulate. You just basically put them together like that. Put the flaps in. Slide the disc in. Put the flaps down. Fold it over. Slide it in. And there you go. You've now got a protective cover. Lovely. Which is just how I do for my steel books. So I'm going to conclude now. I don't know why there aren't more comedies, to be quite honest, other than I think it must be the environment that we're in. I believe Naked Gun is coming out as either a reboot or a reimagining. I'm in two minds in regards to this. If it's done well, it'll be great. But I do think that the character of Frank Drebin is basically synonymous with Leslie Nielsen. I can't imagine anybody. In fact, I think it would work better if it was, if they want to use the title, that they probably think of a character that is like Frank Drebin's brother or something, just so it doesn't spoil what we've got. The Naked Gun is a unique film, in my opinion. Some people think that it came about because of a failed TV show. I don't look at that TV show as a failure. I believe it was ahead of its time. It was at a time where most people that were watching TV were not supposed to be looking at the screen. When you're looking at a Naked Gun TV series, or you're looking at Police Squad, Naked Gun film, you have to look at the screen on everything that's going on. And so from a TV medium, it probably didn't work. That's why it possibly came around. And that's where I'm going to conclude this. I hope you've enjoyed this little capsulated review. I definitely put a thumbs up to The Naked Gun. There are 2 other sequels to it. They are equally as funny. But I don't think anything quite beats the first one. There are jokes in there that will make you groan. There are jokes in there that will just make you belly laugh. What will definitely be happening is you'll be talking about it afterwards and have a big smile on your face. And with that, I'm going to say salute and say thanks very much for this. And hopefully I'll be doing some more film capsules very soon. Bye-bye.